ong ba hakapo da pirang don hang ne perthei kalong kum ka jing pos ni nabila kla sakandit hakato ka liur hakashnong ka banga he ngasam nga pos ni ko jing pos ni ko bashir kai ka pinkandit yanga junom. So now I'll read it in English. This is the prologue to Shadow Men. They say that when you're alive, you're actually dreaming, and when you die, you awaken. That summer was like a dream with the wakefulness of life. That summer in the faraway hill town where I grew up long ago, so long ago, it seems a past life almost. There amidst the vicissitudes of nature, I found myself dreaming, a dream so frightening, it woke me up forever. And then the novel starts. On a misty evening, just after sunset. Ghost-like, the mist floated up from the gorge below, encircling the gardener's cottage and the trees, seeping languidly through the flowering shrubs. It climbed up the hedge of azaleas and gently made its way past the tall monsoon grass. It parted slightly, and I noticed 3 figures climbing up, though as facing slow. Something about the way they moved caught my eye, for it wasn't the easy after-work saunter of household staff. They were quick and furtive, yet clumsy, clearly unfamiliar with the terrain and the path that zigzagged through the plum and pear orchard. The mist thickened, now rising quickly to form an impenetrable curtain, and then suddenly it broke to expose 3 young men in the dimly lit veranda of the gardener's cottage below. One of them had a gun. Rooted to the ground and cold with fright, I watched his sinister silhouette. And then she goes over to the kitchen, which is totally different in the same house, and there's a little dining room attached to it. And there is a different world altogether. So Shadow Men alternates between 2 different worlds. I rushed to the kitchen. It was quiet, at peace, a picture of perfect domestic bliss. It was bathed in soft golden light. The remains of the day were glowing, and lace curtains were blowing in the wind. Khmeo Flynn had prepared tea for me. It was 5 o'clock and Shillong tea time. On the pale blue tray cloth with a sprinkling of pink and lilac flowers on 4 sides were 2 cups, a matching milk jug, sugar bowl, and a teapot, all in pale pink. They're very particular about crockery there, so that's a little detail. I stared at Khmeo Flynn to see if there was any trace of panic or worry, but there was none. Very quietly, as she always did, she said, "Pour yourself a cup of tea before it gets cold. Come, Rasil, enjoy your tea." I continued to look at her, confused and wondering if the events of the past few minutes were but a figment of my imagination. There was Khmeo Flynn shuffling around, as she always did. And then the evening continues, and Robert and Rasil, now they're chatting about their meeting after a very long time, and they're chatting about their families and their children. And I thought this particular paragraph will be So Rasil asked Robert, "What do your children watch, Robert?" "Sports, cartoons, but mostly Hindi serials and films." "Hindi films?" I asked. "Yes, my kids didn't go to an English medium school, so it's Hindi films and songs." Strange, isn't it, Robert, that there's all this hype about outsiders, plainsmen. I would imagine that people here would not accept anything from the mainland. Rasil, nobody considers film stars, Dakars, outsiders. They're from the skies, the other stars. Then how about asking them to come here and talk about, say, national unity and all that, about the true feelings of the mainlanders, about how we are one people, one country. True feelings, Kong. We all know what the true feelings are. Let's face it, the plainsmen, the Dakhars, will always look down on us tribals. Robert, in India, everyone looks down on everyone. The Brahmins turn up their noses at the Kshatriyas look down on the Kais on the Vaishyas, and it just goes on. My parents were both Sikhs, but my mother had to rebel when she married my father because he wasn't a Jat Sikh. One has to be confident of one's worth as a human being and just believe in a world where the mind is without fear and the head is held high. Remember Tagore? Robert looked down at his toes. My eyes wandered away to the window. On the opposite hill, something was burning, the flames leaping up almost playfully, as if it was a game, but I knew it wasn't. Then I read a little bit about the Shillong weather because that gives the atmosphere of the book. I mean, it's very Shillong, the rain and so on. As always, so typical of Shillong weather, the rain suddenly let up and the brightest of sunshine streamed through from a sky, now turning deep blue and white. For a second, the world became beautiful again, a familiar world where murder occurred only in Agatha Christie novels. I reveled in it for a long time. How long I wouldn't know, but somehow I managed to divert my mind completely from the bizarre situation. The car doors suddenly slammed shut. Robert slid into the driving seat. I looked back. Camille Flynn was fast asleep. Kongboni Lee had her eyes tightly shut. She was wide awake though. Her face was as white as a sheet. Something was terribly wrong. Weighed down by secrets known and unknown, I started to cry. I think I'll end with the epilogue, or maybe with the song by Bob Dylan, just a few lines, because that sort of inspired this whole book. Then I saw him at the next table, the sun slanted on his leukoderma face. That was one of the killers, lighting up his eyes that looked silently outwards. He was strumming his guitar and singing a Bob Dylan song. Everyone wants to know why he couldn't adjust. Adjust to what? A dream that bust. He was a clean-cut kid, but they made a killer out of him. That's what they did. Talking about the system, the corrupt politics in Meghalaya those days, it has cleaned up a lot, but this is what it was. They said what's up is down. They said what isn't is. They put ideas in his head he thought were his. He was a clean-cut kid, but they made a killer out of him. Adjust to what? A dream that bust. All he ever wanted was someone to trust. He never did know what it was all about. He was a clean-cut kid, but they made a killer out of him. That sort of sums up Shadow Men. And it's a book which alternates between the real and the unreal, between normal and not so normal, but there's a lot in it, much more than what most people think, that's full of violence and conflict. It's also about the town, the people, the beautiful weather, and precious moments which everyone would cherish once they read this book. So now I'll read a stanza from my translations, The Teaching of Elders, which was first published in 1900. And why I've chosen this stanza, because it's so relevant and it also encapsulates the Khasi philosophy of life. That if you live a correct and virtuous life, everything falls into place. There's the best way to live and the best way to worship. So this is stanza 35 from book 1. Whatever you know, whatever you gain, it's useless if not by truth sustained. Even if very rich you become, if no one respects you, what use is the pomp? Even if you are very grandly attired, it's useless, for it's only your shame camouflaged. You may reach the top, sit on horse elephant. If your reputation is sullied, what use is it then? Even if we worship with folded hands, what use is it if you're not honest and kind? And then I will now end with some reading from my short stories, which were published in 2014 by Zuban. And each story revolves around a woman's life. And each story also highlights an aspect of the Khasi way of life. But that you will have to wait for the book, and I hope you'll read it. But what I'll read is a poem which I quoted in my last stories, Memories of a Love Untold. It celebrates my love for Mussoorie, a place which is very close to my heart, where I spent some of the happiest days of my life. And it's actually a poem by Richard Bach. Richard Bach, Rumi, Kahlil Gibran, Rabindranath Tagore, they're my icons, and almost you can call them my literary soulmates. So this book is like there's no such place as somewhere else, which Dalinia's friend recites to her over the phone while she's in Shillong and he's in Delhi. I cannot go to be with you because I'm already there. You are not little because you are already grown, playing amongst your lifetimes as do we all for the fun of living. You have no birthday because you have already lived. You were never born and never will you die. You're not the child of the people you call mother and father, but their fellow adventurer on a bright journey to understand the things that are. Fly free and happy beyond birthdays and across forever, and we'll meet now and then when we wish, in the midst of the one celebration that can never end. So I think that ends my reading. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you very much, Jessica. It's been wonderful, and I hope you'll all enjoy Shadow Men in its entirety, and not as just a book of great conflict and violence, but a beautiful read as well. Because the book is meant to actually exorcise all these feelings from us. And all the best. Take care. Thank you.